already aware of what AW means. If not, it's an easy acronym. I know that Walden has a lot of acronyms, so Laurel is the one who is responsible for this one, and I think it's a good one. Academic Writing Expectations. So a little bit of the rationale behind this is that a year ago in March, almost exactly a year ago, Laurel and I were at our College of Undergraduate Studies Summit in Baltimore, and Cynthia Baum, the president of Walden, was sitting in on one of our sessions, and somehow an undergraduate student who was in the COM 1001 class had gotten a message to her somehow, leapfrogged over everybody else and somehow got a message to her that he or she had lost a bunch of points in 1001, COM 1001, due to APA, due to the fact that this student hadn't done APA correctly. And so it started this whole dialogue with, why is it that a student in their very first class at Walden should lose points for APA when they've never been taught how to do APA? We just expect them to know how to do it. So it started this whole dialogue about what can we do to sort of redirect the conversation away from APA and more towards appropriate writing standards for students at each level. So that's how this came about. So it's been going on for about a year. And what the AW documents are, and that's what this presentation is about, is telling you what they are, where you'll be able to find them. But it's basically, it provides a tool for faculty and students to use to, once again, like I said, know what the standards are and to move away from, this APA talk that is easier for faculty to grade on APA than to grade on things like, paragraph formation and basic grammar and punctuation. So that's basically the rationale behind this. And it's also scaffolded, so it goes from the intro 1000 level course up through the capstones, which we'll be talking about. And each of the classrooms will have a detailed document inside the classroom for use. And that's going to actually be starting in April, when the April term start. Next slide, please, Laurel. So the way this came about, like I said, it started about a year ago, and I'm also the co-chair of the Undergrad Program Directors Council. So we had a writing task force as part of the PD Council, and we also, Chris Gilmer, who is the full-time faculty member in CUGS for composition, for about 2 years prior to this had been doing a writing task force where there were people from across the university, and maybe you'd heard about the writing task force where there were a lot of different people involved in the dialogue of, writing expectations for students. But the writing task force didn't really have any policy making abilities. They would make recommendations of what they thought needed to be done. So Chris had been working on this writing task force, and he and I joined forces along with Laurel and a couple of other undergrad faculty. And we started talking about, how do we get away from APA and create more transparent expectations for students in regards to their writing. So we did that. We had a bunch of meetings. Laurel and I went into classrooms and really looked at what expectations were by course level. And then I brought, then we had a lot of conversations with the undergrad program directors. And then our associate dean also had conversations with the associate deans at the OAA meeting, the Office of Academic Affairs. And all these conversations basically became the AW documents that we're going to be talking about. So like I said, starting in April, these documents are going to be in the classroom. For CUGS faculty, there's mandatory training that they need to go through. And then I'm not sure what other programs have decided, but we're glad that you're here today because we know that you're interested in this. And number 4 here is important because we realized as we were doing this that the AW documents weren't enough. We really needed to align our writing expectations with the rubrics because many of the classrooms, the rubrics are sort of all over the place, especially in the Gen Ed and Interdisciplinary Studies courses. Some of them have points for writing content and some of them don't. A lot of them, though, even at the 1,000 level, have points for APA format, which is one of the big things we're trying to move away from. So that's just a real overview, and now we'll go into the specifics.
So we mentioned this collaborative process for a reason. Hi, I'm Laurel Walsh. Because this really is a very organic process, and this speaks to needs that were articulated across the College of Undergraduate Studies. And the documents stem from these crucial conversations with the faculty who are in the classroom, but they do also, they're rooted in this mandate. We need to move away from APA compliance as a set of rules, and we need to start talking about writing as a practicable skill. And that's really the impetus and push behind this. The documents went through what I think I stopped numbering them at version 11 because it was getting inane and there were too many copies. We went to a master. But the material went all the way to our vice presidents, and at the vice presidents meeting, we were told that this looks great, this is a great first step, and that they would like to see us look at what other external rubrics exist to delineate what is appropriate writing skills and benchmarks for undergraduate students from their entrance into the institution to the capstone stage. And so we went back and we looked at the documents that we crafted, and then we put those into alignment with the Association of American Colleges and Universities. They have a series of 36 value rubrics that cover critical thinking, math mastery in the hard sciences, and also composition skill benchmarks. And so the iteration that you will see that will live in our classrooms, they line up with the Association of American Colleges and Universities, a consortium of institutions that designed and agreed upon clear benchmarks for student writing mastery as they progress toward their capstone projects. And this is sort of a funny aside that you can only imagine when dealing with writing teachers, writing faculty, and those interested in scaffolding, academic benchmarks, and assessment, and all the different people who are involved in these conversations. I thought this was a very nice visual of those of us who teasingly became very passionate about these documents, but really it took a lot of nerds and a couple of geeks, and I'll admit a little dorkiness, to spend this much time looking at these documents and looking at them as student-facing. Many of the rubrics that are in our classroom, although they're student-facing in name, they aren't very student-friendly. In fact, you'll see that APA formatting or APA is listed as a separate domain with points assigned, but no clarity about what does that really mean. And so the heartfelt desire of this group was that these documents would be very student-friendly, very ease of use. One of the things that the College of Undergraduate Studies has struggled with is our materials and our courses have been constructed across many different programs. CUGS is its own deal, and we have a variety of rubrics there, but then when you go into the programs, we have even more diversity of rubrics that are being used. And so how do we distill out what are the most vital and essential aspects of all these different writing expectations for our students? Well, you really need some nerdy word guys, and I would have to say the Walden Writing Center, not to call them names, are so fantastically full of student-friendly materials. And these documents link directly to Walden Writing Center material that was created by Walden individuals who are familiar with Walden assignments, are familiar with undergraduate writing skills. And so these are very organic documents that tie students and instruct students and push them to the Walden Writing Center throughout.
So this is Lulu again. I should just add, because I know Laurel won't actually admit to it, but Laurel was the chief nerd between us who did all these iterations of documents, and she's right. There were just so many different iterations, and I definitely wouldn't have had the patience to do it, but she seems to love that kind of stuff. Anyway, so academic writing expectations for undergraduate students. You can see these 3 bullet points there. I'm not going to repeat them, but it's basically, I think the big thing to know and to remember is that these are scaffolded expectations. They build on each other. They will be in the course. They don't have to, you don't have to send them somewhere else. They're going to be in the course on the left-hand side. And with each, as they go through their program of study, they'll be able to refer back and get more information as they progress along. So that is, I think, going to be a really helpful tool. So on this next slide, we're actually going to have you take a poll. It's an interactive piece. If we could go to the poll question.
Yep, I'll go ahead and launch that.
Yeah.
And while folks are answering that question there, we did have one question come in. Lulu, I think this is for you when you were going through your first two slides. There's a question about a statement that you made regarding basically taking the focus away from APA. Can you clarify that a little bit more?
Sure. We basically, I mean, if I remember correctly, and certainly Laurel, jump in if I don't remember, but we basically, the conversation last March was that students really shouldn't be held accountable for strict APA adherence until they got up to basically their 2,000 and 3,000 level courses. That in these introductory courses, APA really shouldn't be an issue at all, and they certainly shouldn't be getting points taken away for not adhering to strict APA standards. The main thing was that they have information literacy, that they know what that means, that they're not plagiarizing. If they get the information there in some way, shape, or form, even though it's not in proper APA, that's more important than having them cite something in APA. So there has to be a learning curve, because what we discovered is that students, there are no courses explicitly dedicated to teaching APA. So it's sort of a self-learned process, and many students come to the university without ever having heard of it. They don't know what it is, and the instructors just assume that they're supposed to know. So this is the beginning of the conversation to get away from strict adherence to APA and have it concentrate more on writing and not plagiarizing, knowing how to paraphrase, those sorts of things, and not worrying so much about proper APA structure. And I see,
Okay.
yeah, on the poll, that's interesting.
Yeah. Hopefully that was helpful, Stefan. If you'd like to type in a follow-up question, you're more than welcome to do so. And Lulu, you can see the poll then?
Yeah, I can see the results there, that the top one is the understanding of APA. And that makes sense because the students aren't taught it. And, it's not taught in COM 1001. It's not taught in Walden 1000, these courses that they need to take. What we discovered with the Undergraduate Program Directors Council was that the majority of the PDs in that, in there thought that, oh, well, they're learning APA over there in their Gen Ed courses. So then we went and looked at the Gen Ed courses. There's a little bit of APA use in the English comp class, but a lot of students either test out of that or transfer credit in. And, you don't learn how to do APA 100% entirely right in one 6-week English course, especially if you're having problems at the sentence and paragraph level. So students were really getting freaked out by it, and especially when they would lose a lot of points. And so we're really trying to move away from that, and these odd documents are a way to start doing that, and also looking at rubrics and making sure that these points taken off for APA, especially in the 1 and 2,000 level, don't exist anymore.
Well, I would add to that, and this is all put. Okay, that's good, and I just, this might help with some of it, but the point really being, if you go to the Writing Center and you talk to, I lived and worked in the Writing Center for many years here at Walden, and we have so many students who would come to us, and I'm undergraduate, master's, doctoral candidates, and they would say, hey, my teacher told me I have some APA issues. And I would start reading their paper, and I would think, man, it would be a Christmas present to me if your issues, my friend, were APA. It is not margins. It's not formatting. You cannot use commas. A semicolon is not a wink. I mean, really, the problems were so deeply rooted in the writing, but the feedback that they were receiving and the points that they were losing was about APA. And that's how this kind of hatred of APA begins, is that it seems like it's a stick that hits you, but you never get any instructions about exactly how to use APA. It's used against you before you're given any instructions about how to use it. What are some of the questions coming in? I can't see them.
Okay, so I think there's just a lot of concern here about APA and when it's going to be taught. If the focus isn't going to be on it quite so much at the undergrad level, then when will there be enough focus on it? Because we've got people teaching doctoral level programs, and they're seeing, you know, a lot of those issues with that level of students as well.
Well, and this is one of the things that we will talk about, and you'll see in the documents, there's APA throughout. You can't escape APA when we're talking about academic writing, and we're talking about giving credit to sources. So fret not. APA is going nowhere, but it's a citation system. It's not the thrust and goal of academic writing isn't to master APA, which is a set of rules, but to practice skills associated with clear composition. And so there's no worries. APA is not going out. We're not banning it. It's not going away. But we're changing the way we talk to students about their writing so that we're not talking to them about APA. We're talking to them about the way they're composing. And I think that it's a really important distinction. And you'll see when you look at the documents, there's reference pages. There's authors, more than one author, how to use that all. You will see that they are getting explicit instructions in APA, which in all fairness was completely missing from our instructional bundles previously. So that's one thing. But I think there's a sort of pass the buck thing that happens with APA where, you know, everybody starts looking at the people behind them. I know teaching at Walden when I taught undergraduate, a lot of people say, well, aren't we introducing APA in high school? No, we're not. And then when I've taught at the graduate level, everybody's like, oh, those undergraduate faculty, they're just not putting enough emphasis on APA. I'm having to teach APA. And at the doctoral level, they're yelling at the master's instructors. So there's a pass the buck mentality about APA. Where are students learning it? How do they get it? The truth is most of our students are self-taught in APA because they've lost points on an assignment, and then they have to do go and look at the manual. The manual is not intuitive. It's not very reader-friendly. It's not student-friendly. I've read the entire thing. So as an APA compliance officer who worked as a dissertation editor, if you think I'm not absolutely, vividly, clearly sure that APA knowledge and understanding helps, you know, academic writing, you misunderstand the intent of all. The intent of all is to move away from rule-based instruction to writing as a practicable skill. And there's a lot of connections, and you'll see those in the documents, between APA and writing. But they aren't the thrust of our intent when we're talking about academic writing is not that you produce perfect margins, but that you replicate the ideas in a way that an audience can receive them.
Well, and this is Lulu. I want to add something. I think it also, instead of putting the impetus on APA in the beginning, you got to get the students thinking about why APA or any citation style is even necessary. I mean, they really need to understand the mechanics and the basics of academic writing versus, you know, professional writing at work, where, you know, why do I need a citation source? What is it anyway? I mean, I think the odd documents are going to ease them into it more. I do think, though, that, you know, the mandate from Cynthia was, I mean, she has a daughter who's going to Wake Forest University, and she actually said, you know, I had a conversation with my daughter, when do you use APA? And it wasn't until, you know, her junior year. So it was like, you know, why are we expecting our Walden students to be able to do this the very first day they get into class in COM 1001? Is that really what we want to be doing? Honestly, my answer to that is no. I don't think it's fair. I think it freaks students out, as I said. So the odd documents are a way for them to understand the bigger questions about academic writing and ease them into APA so that they understand why it's necessary and how to use it once they get into some of their upper level courses. Now, we know that a lot of students come in with a lot of transfer credit. I mean, one of the PDs, Karen Newts, who runs the nursing program, we know that the nursing students all come in with an associate's degree. That's just the way the program is set up. So the way the odd documents are set up is if they're going straight into 3,000 level courses, you know, their junior, senior level content courses with nursing, they're going to need APA sooner than the students who are starting out at 1,000 level. So that the odd document at the 3,000 level is going to have everything prior to that. It's a cumulative, comprehensive approach. But for that, you know, especially the 1,000 level, it's APA should not really be part of the conversation at that point.
Okay, I think we had a lot of good conversation about APA, and hopefully that clarifies some things for everyone. Are you ready to close the poll question, or did you want to review? Okay.
Oh yeah, no, if you want to talk through what we had, I don't think there's any surprises, but I can't see them.
Okay. So as Lulu said, the majority of folks voted for understanding of APA. Next in line was mechanics, grammar and punctuation, and then the remaining three were actually tied. So that was the paragraph organization, use of evidence, and cohesion and flow. But all of them were voted on. So, you know, all five are issues that people are dealing with.
All of the above is our favorite answer because it's true. And all of these documents, all of these issues that we highlighted, you know, we will be dealing with in the AW documents. So here you're looking at what these expectations are for 1,000 and first term courses. And as you glance through it, as Lulu noted, you're not seeing strict adherence to a reference sheet, understanding italicized volume numbers. In our first term and 1,000 level courses, we want students to start thinking of an informed reader as their audience. We want them to understand how to develop their ideas in writing. We want them to understand that they own the revision process. We encourage them to use Grammarly. We want them to take responsibility for their proofreading. We want them to start to think about what they're doing in their sentence and paragraph level construction. We encourage them to have paragraph maps. And we want them to start using evidence to support their claims. We do not want them to be able to feel comfortable with emotion-laden arguments or unsubstantiated claims throughout. And this is really, in the student-facing documents, there's hyperlinks, and those will come to you after this presentation. But you'll see that all of these skills have practice locations and more information in a hyperlink on the Walden Writing Center. And when these documents go live, there'll be a landing page for students who will have academic writing expectations in their first term and 1,000 level courses. They'll be provided with a landing page with a lot of interactive options for them. And we talked about mechanics a little bit. Grammar and punctuation, they really do matter. They matter in resume. The CEO of Grammarly noted that of the resumes that are uploaded into his software, the average is 5 errors on a resume. Well, that's a job our student didn't get because most HR hiring managers, they don't want to correct all your emails before you send them out to the company. So being able to use commas well, being able to use the signposts of the English language and their punctuation and grammar, they are essential skills. They're professional skills, but they're academic, practicable competencies that we want to encourage our students at the sentence level, at a micro level, to become more comfortable in composing.
So this one is me, right? Yes. Okay. So you can see that this one takes it up a notch, adds a few more things that students need to do. The revision process is still in there. It goes from sentence and paragraph to essay level, using evidence to support discipline. And at this point, they should be able to have some awareness of discipline-specific conventions. Meaning, especially at the 3,000 level, I know in my program, you know, that there is a very big distinction between the 3,000 and 4,000 and the 2,000. And Laurel maybe can talk a little bit about this. Our first inclination was that the 3,000 should be more on the side of the 4,000. But when she was looking at the association, the AA, whatever it was that ended up being aligned with, and after we talked to our VP about it, the 2,000 and 3,000 got lumped together. I'm still personally not sure that that's the right way to do it. I see that the 3,000 is a much different animal than the 2,000. Laurel, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, and I fought this battle unsuccessfully, and my argument was, as a former community college instructor, you know, I spent 5 years working with associate's degree students, and those expectations at the 1,000 and 2,000 level I felt were more similar, and I thought there was a huge cliff that you leap off of when you go into junior level courses. But that really wasn't how the Association of American Colleges and Universities clumped these expectations. They wanted to see that 2,000 and 3,000 level courses, students had a little bit more latitude to continue to practice their writing within the constructs delineated, and that really they're looking at 4,000 level courses as distinct from capstone, where I would have clumped 4,000 and capstone as being very similar animals. That's not how they broke them out. So this is how they ended up living, is that the 2,000 and 3,000 level courses, you'll see this more of an opportunity to make some errors. It's kind of the pre-publication, less high stakes, but then when you're a senior and you're working your seminar classes, or conversely, you're crafting a capstone, you're going to be held to much higher standards. And I think one of the things that the academic writing expectations build in that you really do not have time for it purely in APA. I mean, APA is it's a publication guide. It's how your work needs to. I mean, the reason the rules about margins exist is for book bindings, and very few of our undergraduate authors, I'm not going to say all, are writing for publication, but they are writing for us, the informed reader. And so one of the things that these documents really push and make our students consider is their use of evidence, and make them understand that the types of evidence vary in quality. Although in quantity, information has gotten so overwhelming. I mean, Google is my friend and my enemy, but you can find so much content that's written for promotional reasons, that's written for persuasive reasons to encourage people to buy something or invest in something. And so here's just an image that we've used when we're talking to our students about their use of evidence, that trying to push students towards the yoke, the more wholesome, healthy, academically appropriate types of evidence that we want to see them, the more research, the more vetted, the more peer-reviewed options, as opposed to the equally tasty edges of this egg, that where students are interacting with other materials, they're running into press releases and blogs and all these other options, YouTube videos, government reports. And especially, you know, for our dissertation students, they are going to be availing themselves of white papers and other objects, but just trying to help encourage students that not all evidence is created equally, and that your discipline-specific evidence, the material that you're introduced to, the textbooks that you read for your classes, should be more valued, more held to a higher level of quality as being the rapidly aging facts that you encounter all over the internet are not as germane to your assignments as that material you've been mandated to read by your instructor.
So at the 4,000 level, this is really when students should have, hopefully and obviously, a good handle on their writing processes. We have this 4,000 level, and then we'll be talking about the capstone. But by this point, I think they should be able to be using APA, and it's something that they, you know, have learned in their 3,000 level, or, you know, through various links that they followed to the Writing Center. That's another thing about these documents. There's a lot of links to take them back to the Writing Center to really start acclimatizing them to proper format, proper citation style, you know, where does the period go, all those sorts of things. That at this point they really do need to know how to do that. They know how to write a solid essay. They know how to use discipline-specific information. They know how that differs, especially in interdisciplinary study, between disciplines. They can use different types of style for a specific type of paper and assignment. And they also know how to put together a reference page properly. So again, you don't see APA on here. It's basically embedded in this, that by this point, and this is where the rubrics are going to come in, that at the 3,000 and 4,000 level courses, and certainly in the capstones, APA is a part of the grading points that get taken off. You know, they've had 2.5, 3 years to get to this point, instead of expecting them to be able to do it in their first course. Obviously, by the time they get into their 4,000 level courses, they need to be, you know, very familiar with what APA is, and shouldn't be caught unawares that suddenly there's this citation style. So it is a slow easing into APA rather than an immediate, you know, immersion and drowning in APA. Next slide is yours.
This is my credible Hulk. this is the passion that our student authors bring to their writing can often cloud their arguments and make their claims less plausible. And so one of the things that we're really pushing to students is this use of evidence, use of appropriate evidence in the construct of an assignment, where you've looked at what you're asked to do with this idea that I am going to support all of my passionate feelings on the voucher system for schools or evidence-based nursing. I'm going to document, I'm going to have facts, I'm going to have resources that I can refer to my readers, and I'm going to use this evidence in a way in my writing that's really vital. And I think that this skill, this practicable skill of locating and using the appropriate types of evidence in an argument is as important as knowing to put the period after et al. The second time you mentioned 3 authors. And in many ways, more essential. But I think it's a little bit less, writing's a form of thinking. I think it's easier, and I've always found it easier, to talk to a student about APA compliance and provide them with a page number than it is to talk to them about the ways their ideas fail to persuade me, or the ways that their sentence level comma and mechanics are making it difficult for me to understand even when they're point. So this is a kind of a move away from APA compliance as a set of rules, again, to practicable writing skills that will enhance their arguments over time.
So the capstone course here, I'm not sure if any of you guys who are attending here teach at this level. This is the level where I normally teach in my program. We do have forms, formats in our resource area in the course for the students. In talking with the other program directors in their capstones, you know, a lot of them don't have a template for students to use in their capstone. So one of the things that we did with the capstone document is we also included a template for them to use that has all the correct formatting, you know, the cover page, the abstract, you know, how far the margins are supposed to be, what the reference page looks like, all those sorts of things to really give them a visual document to basically copy when they're, you know, when they're doing their final capstone projects. So by the time they get to their capstone, you know, they are ready to go into a graduate program. I mean, that we really want them to do that. We certainly don't want them, the last thing I would want to do is to let one of my students get through their capstone, go into a graduate level course, and that the instructor in that course feels like the student is completely unprepared for a graduate level course. By the time they get through their capstones, they really should be able to be at that publication stage practically. I mean, it should be, there should be no errors, everything should be where it's supposed to be. At the 4,000 level, and the capstone especially, that is not where they need to be learning APA. You know, it does need to become, you know, it is embedded in the 3,000 and 4,000 level, and the capstones, it's done. It's a done deal, and they know what they're doing. So some of the undergraduate program directors, the template will go into all of the capstones along with other resources that are in the classroom already. But I know that some of the undergraduate PDs were very happy to have this because they didn't have anything like that. And again, once, you know, in their capstone, they not only have the template, but they have all of the other information that has already been there previously since the, you know, the 1,000 level, intro level document. So everything is there for them. Oh, is that me again? Sorry.
No, you were this last one, Lulu, but you kind of covered all of them. So basically,
yeah,
the only thing you didn't mention, it's just the display case for student learning. That a capstone should be. We should have anything that comes out of Walden should have a similar look and feel. Those capstones should be recognizable at a glance, and they should be display cases of how wonderful our students have grown as thinkers and are able to show what they've learned. So that was just the only, that uniformity. We really do want that for our capstones. And then this was me. So again, this goes back to questions we were talking about earlier. APA is part of a writer's toolkit. It's a way to cite sources, and there are many ways to cite sources. MLA, Chicago style. At Walden, we use APA. So AWE has absolutely threaded throughout it and fully integrated APA as part of a writer's toolkit. But what we want to stress is this awareness of all the other aspects that are necessary for a clear composition. Mechanics, understanding drafting and revision, understanding that paraphrasing isn't, summarizing doesn't come easily to all of us, and that most of us have to practice it. Not pushing students, when we were looking in the classrooms, we saw a lot of legacy content that encourages students to go to the Purdue Owl. Well, those are lovely people at the Purdue Owl, and I love them. They have not seen Walden writing assignments. They aren't as familiar with the types of information we're asking our students to handle. So we want our students to go to the Walden Writing Center. We want them to use those resources. We want them to use those templates and interact with those tutors. So every single thing in AWE is going to push students back to that interface. And also, for those of us who feel that sometimes writing is relegated to the composition instructors, this really diffuses ownership of writing across all the disciplines. I've had so many instances when I was teaching in an MBA program where the accounting and the finance professors were saying, "Hey, Laurel, you know what? I don't deal with writing. I don't do APA. That's the writing center's job, and you teach APA writing. That's your work." And I thought, well, that's not entirely fair, because the idea is that they're developing an accounting. To be persuasive, they have to be well constructed in writing. And so this is a way to diffuse the ownership of composition instruction so that it comes concurrently with their discipline-specific instruction. It's not separate from. Writing is a form of thinking, and thinking in a discipline requires that you write, clearly and cohesively in that setting. And then this is more of my little bend on this, but I really believe that academic writing expectations provide foundational knowledge that is important professionally. So, I taught freshman comp for a decade. I think I get to go right to heaven. Same curriculum over and over again. But really I would say to my students, like, you want to write well, not just for your job applications, not just for, maybe you want a grant sometime, or you want a Fulbright. You want to write well for persuasive documents that are going to be really useful. What about love letters? You want to write well so that you can, make someone swoon. So this is that there's some real positive social change aspects to academic writing. We know that in this current regulatory environment, we're very beholden to external stakeholders. Employers value strong writing skills, and online learning requires it. All of our communication, all of our discussions that would happen in an oral tradition in a brick and mortar setting, they're all in writing now. And so you're being assessed on your writing at the micro level and at the macro level. These skills are portable. They actually enhance your ability to think critically, because they require that you design an argument that includes counter-argument. So this is like my little joke to those of us who aren't always very comfortable talking to students about their writing and might be way more comfortable talking to students about APA. But content, discipline-specific content, is not dissolvable in hot liquids. Our students aren't drinking it. You're not drinking it. You're reading it. And so content mastery is displayed in writing. That means that all of us who work to help our students with their content, as a sidebar, also should be working to help our students with their writing. So this was a John Kaplan quote many years ago. He said, all Walden faculty members are writing faculty. They're all writing teachers. So this is a part of empowering its transparency, so our students know what benchmarks we expect them to meet. But it's also transparency for all of us on the faculty instructional side to be using the same language with our students. And I think that's going to be a wonderful synergy, that students are seeing the same types of recommendations and the same discussions about their writing across all the curriculum.
So now we're going to open it up for questions. I know we had some before, but if you could look at these that are posted up there and either address them specifically or any other things that you have a question about. The big thing is, as instructors, I'm assuming that everybody on the call is in the classroom and teaching. Are you going to feel comfortable sending your students the way it's going to look? And I guess Laurel saw this mock-up yesterday or something. It'll be in the course home area of your course. So on that left-hand column where everything is under the course home, it'll be under there. And what is the bubble going to say there, Laurel?
It's going to say, well, we can't fit academic writing expectations, so we agonize writing expectations, writing guidelines. It's going to say academic writing, and it'll be above academic integrity. And so it'll be a link on the left-hand navigation bar with their course information, their syllabus, everything will be located there, and there'll be just a quick link through to a landing page which will have the documents germane to that course level and the audit at a glance. And you'll see the materials after the webinar that we had today, that you'll see everything that will be placed in the classroom. Christy, are we getting any questions, or did we have all of our questions come in a flurry at the start?
I'm not seeing any that are responding to the slide, the questions on the slide. So take a moment and type in the question box, or if you'd like, simply raise your hand and we can unmute you. That is totally fine too. And here we have one that just came in. I'm not sure if the students will use the documents or not. At the doctoral level, I can't seem to get students to use the resources available to the, and it's ... so she must be adding more. So I think it's just a challenge of actually getting the students to use what's available.
Yeah, and you know, to make this clear, these documents will be in all of the undergraduate classrooms. They won't be in any of the master's or doctoral, but Laurel has definitely had conversations with others, you know, teaching. And when we were in Miami doing this presentation during the faculty meeting, a couple of the people in the seminar there were not undergrad, but they were the grad level, and were also interested in these. And I would say that if that is the case, you know, the vice presidents know about odd documents. The associate deans across all the colleges know about the odd documents. If you think that it's going to be helpful for grad students, master's or doctoral, you need to have those conversations when you have a chance to have those conversations. It's not something that can just happen. We had to, you know, do a maintenance request to basically get the documents into the classroom. It cost about $5,000, which is not that much money, to get it into all the undergrad classrooms. And obviously the information would probably have to be changed a bit, obviously, for those levels. But it's certainly something that if you think it's helpful, you know, you should start those conversations, because it's not something we can just automatically do. Sorry if I interrupted the question.
No, I think you addressed it well, and there's other ideas coming in, you know, about how Walden really could address the issue starting at the high school level, and if anything is being done in that regard. And I'm not sure that they are reaching out to high schools. Maybe you two know more. I think it's just kind of a difficult task, considering that the students aren't necessarily coming straight out of high school to Walden. I think the requirement is that they have to be 24 years old or something like that. And then it's just, since all of the students are coming from all over the world, really, it's tough to pinpoint particular high schools.
Yeah, I mean, at the undergrad level, our average student age is 35. So, you know, they've been out of high school for, you know, almost half their life there. So most of them have forgotten anything they learned in high school, especially about APA. I'm not even sure if it's taught in high school. So that would be it would be ideal. I mean, if we were a feeder school from, you know, a clump of high schools and we were located somewhere, I think that would be an option. But just by virtue of how our students get to Walden and what age they get there, and you're right, Christy, right now the age is 24. So most of them have been out of high school for, you know, 6 to 20 years or more.
Right. It is a great idea, but it's a tough thing to accomplish. We do have a hand raised, so I can unmute. Looks like Stephen Hampy. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Are you there, Stephen? We're not hearing you if you're talking. I'm not sure if maybe your microphone isn't working properly. or not. I have you unmuted. Looks like maybe he's having some tech issues there. I'll put your hand down, Stefan, and then if you are able to get your mic working again, just go ahead and raise it, and I'll unmute you. Okay, let's see. And then we've just got a couple questions coming in, will we have access to these documents? And I just want to reiterate that, yes, you will have access to those. In the follow-up email that I send after the session, I'll include those as attachments so you can review them. As stated, they'll be in the undergraduate classrooms, and then I'm also going to put them in the webinar archive, which is located on the CFE community in eCampus, and I'll put a link to that in the email as well. So that way you can access them and you can spread the word, and colleagues can access them easily as well. Here we have one comment, Lisa Bald. She said, to address the adult learners, then would need to consider an introduction writing course.
Yeah, that is a loaded statement. During the academic program review for gen ed courses that just happened, everybody who teaches undergrads knows that they need another writing course. There's always been a lot of institutional pushback adding another requirement onto a program of study. We would certainly support that, and Chris Gilmer, that was one of the things from his writing task force that was a recommendation, is that there would be a second writing course that students have to take. So we'll see what happens. It's certainly on the table as a result of the academic program review because it definitely came up. Hopefully that will happen. We'll have to see how it happens and if it's a requirement, but something that does explicitly teach APA would be really helpful. But again, all of our courses are 6 weeks. You don't learn anything like that in 6 weeks. I think you can learn it over a span of a couple years, how to really do a couple of things. And that's really what I try to get my students to do, is like learn how to do one thing and then add something onto it, but do that one thing correctly. So we'll see. That is definitely a hot topic right there.
So is that something that's being considered for the master's level too, or right now is it just undergrad?
Just for undergrad.
Well,
okay.
Yeah, and there are some programs who are doing very interesting things. So, for example, EDD, the Vantage Writing Assessment is issued in their foundations course, and students who score below a certain threshold on this diagnostic test are getting a mandated writing course for those students in response to, they have to take grad writing, which is, a review and an overview of how to write an academic argument, how to read with a purpose. It's reading strategies, writing strategies, and so there are some programs who've decided that the issues associated with composition are so intense in their program, EDD being one, that they will require a writing course for students who have diagnostically identified skill deficits in order to help them. And the course is grad writing, and it's offered out of CSS. And it's available to any student as a recommendation. But in EDD, they're using a paired assessment and remediation course, and they're paying for it. The EDD program is actually letting the students take that course for free because they really believe in order to improve capstone quality, they have to get to students early and effectively so that they're writing at that level, not at the end of their program, but as early as possible.
Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions or hand raises. However, if any of the attendees on the call, if you think of additional questions, follow-up questions for the presenters, I'll include their email address in that email as well. And certainly feel free to reach out and follow up with any additional questions you might have.
So we'll just end on this hilarious note. I'll be happy to give you innovative thinking. What are the guidelines? I think one of the things that when you're working with academic writing and helping our students be more clear in their composition, you don't want to have cookie cutter essays, and you really want to help them become creative, innovative thinkers. And so it is our hope that these odd documents, as they work as overview kind of guidelines for effective communication, will help facilitate the environment for good problem-solving skills in their writing. So although we're producing these academic writing expectations in order to make something that was sort of hidden, what do we expect from our students, to make it now visible to the students themselves, we really do believe that empowered students who understand what is expected of them in their writing will be able to become more creative problem solvers. That's the hope of all of this at the end of the day. So thank you for coming and joining us today, and we look forward to any follow-up questions you might have and any feedback you might have on the documents once you receive them. Lulu, any closing thoughts?
No, thanks for coming. It was a good group, and have a great day. Basically, that's it.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Christy. Thanks, Laurel. See ya.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.
Bye-bye.